All right, so welcome everyone. I'm going to get started. My name is Katie Laird, and I'm the Director of Engagement here at ReadWorks. I really appreciate all of you coming today. I know it's a really busy time of year, whether you're just getting started or about to get started. So I do appreciate you taking the time to come learn more about ReadWorks and our digital features today. I'm going to get started with just a few housekeeping issues with the Zoom webinar software that we're using. So first, if you want to do any chatting with each other, most of you have figured this out probably already, but use the chat bubble. It should be located on the bottom bar of your screen, a little white bubble. It says chat, and make sure to set the to portion of that bubble to all panelists and attendees. That's where we'd like you to connect with each other, share ideas, get a conversation going if you'd like to. If you have specific questions for me or for other ReadWorks staff, you can use the Q&A button in the bottom of your screen. It's a white square, it says Q and then Q&A below it. For some of you, those buttons might be on the upper left-hand side of your screens. I'd also want you all to notice my colleague, Veronica, who's here. She is going to be typing away, answering all of your questions. So you can see her floating in the top there as well. A couple of other housekeeping things. Everybody who registered will receive a recording of this webinar in your email tomorrow. And you'll also be receiving a survey from us. So we'll ask you to be honest with us and give us some feedback to help us improve. And yeah, we'll send that to your email as well as the chat at the end of the webinar. We'll also send you all of the assets that you see today. So I'll use a presentation, which we'll send you, a little packet that might help you get started as well. And that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And now all of you should see a big screen that says, welcome to ReadWorks. So a little bit of background information on ReadWorks. ReadWorks is a nonprofit, and our mission is to improve teacher effectiveness and student achievement in reading comprehension. So we do that by offering the highest quality research-based materials to teachers online for free. Some of you may already be familiar with our resources on our website. Some of you may not. And I'm actually going to take just a minute to figure that out. So I'm going to launch a poll just to ask you about your usage of ReadWorks and how familiar you are with it, so I can tailor this just a little bit. And then I know I've already seen a little bit of chatter about it, but we've just launched our Google Classroom integration. So that's one thing that we will be diving into today. So I'd love to know how many of you plan to use ReadWorks with Google Classroom as well. Great, so I'll just give you a couple of seconds to vote here. So how familiar are you with ReadWorks, and do you plan to use ReadWorks with Google Classroom? Great. And one more housekeeping note is that we will not be using the hand-raising functionality today. So if you do have questions, make sure to put them in the Q&A and not do the hand-raising thing. All right, so I'm going to end the poll now, and I'll share the results with everybody. So it looks like the majority of you, or just around half, are somewhat familiar with ReadWorks, and then we have 20% that are new. For Google Classroom, it looks like a lot of you are here for Google Classroom, with 64% using Google Classroom, and then another 28% not sure, which is great. So that's a new feature that we're really excited about, and I'll be excited to show you how it works. Okay. So For those of you who are familiar with ReadWorks, you already know that you can use ReadWorks in 3 ways. You can print all of our materials. We know that no matter what the makeup of your classroom is digitally, there will be times where we still need to rely on pen and paper, and so all of our content and curriculum is formatted to be easily printable using this print button that you can find on almost every page of our website. Same with a projector. So throughout the website, you'll also see this button, which will allow you to project ReadWorks content onto your smartboard. And then the real reason that we're here today is for this assign function. So using ReadWorks in your digital classrooms that you can create. So that will be the main focus of our webinar today. ReadWorks is web-based, so that means you can access it anywhere that you have internet access, whether kids are at school or at home, and it works across devices. You can use it on your laptops, tablets, mobile phones, smart boards, again, anything with internet. So many teachers ask us why switch to digital. If you're using paper and you're used to ReadWorks, you may not see why put the extra time and effort in, which it really is quite easy. But there are a few advantages. I think I'm missing a slide here. Yep, so I'm missing my student data slide, but that's okay. It's basically that you can see a lot more student data. You can track your student results. You can track how much they've read, the questions they've answered, the questions they've gotten right and wrong, the number of words they read. You can track those things by assignment, by month, and over an entire school year. In addition to all of that great student data and progress tracking, we also have audio versions that you can use for all of our content. So there's audio on all of our articles, questions, and vocabulary, and there's an increasing amount of audio that's recorded by real people for our articles, which is really great for students, for their comprehension, for their fluency, for a number of reasons. Automatic grading is also a great thing, as probably any teacher would agree with. So all of our multiple choice questions are automatically graded by the system. Students have access to that information right away. And then we do have a lot of open-ended written answer questions as well, and we have an easy grading tool for those. And additionally, there are some personalized tools in the student environment that allows students to take a little bit of ownership over the way that they're accessing this content. So they can do things like highlight and annotate the text. They can view articles in a split screen. They can use a guided reading panel to focus them on a single line of text, and they can change the text size. I'm going to be showing you all of these things, so this is just a quick overview to tell you what you're in for. Finally, you can save trees, which is always a good thing. So today, I'm going to really focus on just getting started digitally. There are 3 ways to use ReadWorks digitally, so I'll be going through each one. This can be a little tricky because I'll have to show you a lot of different accounts. So just bear with me as I switch back and forth from account to account so that you can see all of the different ways that you can use ReadWorks digitally. So this is how I'm going to go through things. First, we're going to look at a teacher view. I'm going to walk you through how to register for your account if you don't have one already and how to log in. And then I'm going to create a class 3 different ways. So one of them is a class with just a student roster, so you don't need any sort of special accounts to do that one. Then will be a class with Google accounts, so if your students have Google accounts. And then will be a class imported directly from Google Classroom. And then we're going to stay in the teacher space, and we'll find and assign some ReadWorks content and curriculum. Then we'll switch over to our student view. You'll get to see how students log in using all three of those different types of classes. Slightly different, but hopefully pretty straightforward. So we'll watch students log in using a roster class, a Google account, and Google Classroom. And then I'll show you how students complete an assignment and walk you through those student tools that I mentioned. Finally, we'll go back to the teacher account and you'll see the view of the information that a teacher gets after students have completed all their assignments. So you can see their class results. You can do things like reassign their assignments. You can leave comments, and you can view student progress over time. All right, so there's the overview, and now I'm going to dive in. So first you go to readworks.org. And if you don't have an account already, you can create one for free by clicking the sign up button and filling in your information. We'll also ask you a little bit of information about where and what you teach, which we hope that you'll share with us, fully confidential. And then if you already have an account, this is also where you can log in. Just use your name, your email, and your password. As you can see, this is our announcement for our brand new Google Classroom feature. I'm going to dismiss that. So one other thing, if you have an account, this is also a great time for you to update your account information. So you can do that on the upper left-hand side. You'll see your name with a little drop down, and then it says My Account. You'll have your basic information here and your teaching information here. It's really important to us and really helpful to us if you can keep your information up to date. It helps us as we go after funding. So as I mentioned, we're a nonprofit, so we rely heavily on foundations and other philanthropic donations to fund all of this stuff, and saying how many teachers we reach is a huge incentive for them to actually fund us. So it does help with that. And then it also helps us make sure that we're getting you all of the content and curriculum that will be most helpful. So I ask that you do that if you change grades, anything like that. All right. And now to create a class. So the first thing you'll do on the blue navigation bar up here, there's a button that says Class Admin. If you click on that, this is where you can create a class. So the first class that I'm going to create is a roster class. So no matter what, you click the button that says Create a Class. If I'm not using Google Classroom, I'll click Create a New Class. From here, I can select the grade. The grade is really for your own internal and our own internal organization. It doesn't matter for your students or for the experience that you have. And then you can name the class whatever you want. So your students won't see the grade, but they will see the name of the class. Now you have the choice between a Google sign-in class or a roster class. So if you click Invite with Roster, then you'll get this pop-up where you can type or copy and paste student names from your roster right in here. So you just type whatever you want and add those students. You'll see that your student passwords are automatically set to the password 1234. And you'll receive this class code. You will need to distribute that class code to your students to have them log in. So that is how you create a class using a roster class. Now, if you want to create a class using a Google sign-in, you do the first step is the same. You click Create a Class, click Create a New Class, choose your grade, name it. And you'll be brought back to that same exact screen. So here, instead of selecting roster, I'm going to select Google Sign In, and I'm going to click Invite with Google. You'll notice that you don't have any students in the class yet because your students will need to log in with their Google accounts in order to join the class. And how they'll do that is you'll distribute, again, this unique class code to those students. So for both of those options, you'll need to distribute a class code to your students. Finally, if you have a Google Classroom class, go to Class Admin. I'm not going to show you how to set up a Google Classroom class, so this is assuming that you already have your class set up in Google Classroom totally separately. You're going to go to Create a Class and Import from Google Classroom. The system will ask you to confirm your Google account. Select your class that you'd like to import. It will ask for a grade. And then you'll notice this little checkbox here. It says publish assignments to Google Classroom by default. So whether or not you check this box, you'll be able to publish assignments to Google Classroom. What this is really about is saying, do you want that to always to be automatically checked or not automatically checked in every assignment you create? Once you've decided that, you can click Import. And your class is imported. This little note is saying that any changes to assignments, so once you've made an assignment to your students and if you'd like to make a change to it, you'll need to do that in ReadWorks. If you make the change in Google Classroom, the assignment won't be updated in ReadWorks. And you can see here is that class that I just created with Google. You'll notice there is no unique class code. You don't need a class code if you're using a Google class. So now I'm going to go and show you how to create an assignment. So I'm going to click Find Content. And here you'll be brought to a search page where you can search our entire library of content. I'm not going to dive too deeply into the types of content we have today because I won't have enough time to get to everything. But I will say that you can search all of our content by topic. You can see the topics are listed up here. So you can click on a topic, and then also you can search by subtopic. The subtopics are listed along the left-hand side there. So you can see subtopics under social studies will be US history, so forth. Same goes for science. For literary, you'll be able to search categories like poetry in the subtopics. For skills and strategies, these are back to our focus on reading comprehension. So you'll see a long list of reading comprehension skills and strategies on the left-hand side. You can search our library for articles and question sets that will support those particular skills and strategies. So if I click main idea, I'll get all results that have main idea question sets. So question sets that ask just about main idea. And then also our special collections. There's 3 things here that you can see. So we work with a lot of really amazing museums and cultural institutions in New York and across the country, like the Museum of Natural History and the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So you can search those collections in here. Which are always really cool. We also have lists of holidays and events. So we'll have the upcoming important calendar events. We're just about to make our back to school curation live on the left-hand side there. So stay tuned for that. And then this we added very recently, just last spring, but social and emotional learning. We've tagged a lot of our articles that are relevant to goals that you might have for your social emotional learning, like appreciating diversity and goal setting. Okay, so once you know how to search by topic, you can also search by grade. and by Lexile. So Lexile is a quantitative measure of the complexity of the text, and grade, we've taken some of those quantitative things into account as well as some more kind of human-based things. So members of our team will look at an article, take things into consideration that something like a Lexile couldn't, like content and the complexity of the text structure, complexity of the sentences, and then determine what grade it should be at. That's not a perfect science, so we always encourage you to look at grades above and below as you're searching for your exact content. And then you can search by product. So we have 3 main product lines. The first is articles. These are single articles, and they come with a number of curricular supports listed here. There are audio versions. There are step reads. Step reads are less complex versions of the original text. So these are to help you differentiate in your classroom without assigning your students any sort of a dumbed down text. Question sets, you can drill down into the types of questions you want to search for, so multiple choice and written answer. Vocab activity, so you can, all of our articles come with vocabulary support, so those are vocabulary words that are selected. The vocabulary activity is extra practice with those. And ebooks, and I'll show you an ebook because mostly just because they're pretty to look at. But if you click through an article, you can see all of those supports that I mentioned listed at the top, as well as the ebook. And these are illustrated versions of our articles that also come with human voice narration to support your students as they comprehend the article. Then we also have paired texts. These are 2 texts that are paired together on a common topic or theme. And there's a question set that will ask questions about both the first text, first about the first text, second about the second text, and third about both texts. And then finally, there's article a day. This is a classroom routine. An article a day is a classroom routine that takes 10 minutes, and it's designed to systematically improve your students' background knowledge, vocabulary, and reading stamina. What you'll find when you click this checkbox is article a day sets, and these are topically related sets of nonfiction articles. The topic is what you see listed in blue. And if you click through, you'll be able to see all of the articles in that text set. I would love to tell you more about article a day right now, but if you want to learn the classroom routine, there's lots of resources on our website. You can click see how right here, or tune back in for one of our article a day webinars. All right, so now that you know how to search, I'm going to do a search for let's see, for an article that I want to assign to my students. You can also search by keyword in the search bar. And you can preview again all of those supports that I mentioned here. I'll also point out the metadata along the right-hand side. So that's all things like word count, Lexile level, it's all listed to the right here. If you would like to print any of this stuff, you click the print button here, and you can identify the things in the within the article that you'd like to print. Click print, and our system will generate a packet that's then easily printable for you. Sometimes it takes a second. Okay. Same goes with Projector. As I mentioned, that Projector button, you can find it up here. If you click that, it just removes all that extra data from the right-hand side. It moves all the extra stuff from the top to give you a cleaner view to project. Now, let's say you want to assign this, to your digital class. You click Assign, and this is what you do regardless of what kind of digital class you created. This process is exactly or almost exactly the same. So you click Assign, and then you get to select the supports that you want to assign to your students. So I'm going to do audio, ebook. I'll do one vocabulary word. Make sure you select the right class. So I'm going to assign this one to my roster class. And then if you'd like to differentiate, you can do so right here. It says assign to whole class or to specific students. So if you want different students to receive different assignments, click specific students and select your students here. Then just those students will get that assignment, and you can assign something else to your other students. So I'm going to go ahead and click whole class. And you can also set your start date as well as your due date. So you can plan ahead as far as you want. Those assignments won't show up in your students' accounts until that start date comes. So once you've done that, you can click Assign. And I'm going to do that same process. The process will look exactly the same if you're doing a Google Sign-In, and then a teensy tiny change if you're doing a Google Classroom. So I'm going to select my Google Classroom account, and this all looks the same, all looks the same. And then this little checkbox has appeared, and it says Publish to Google Classroom Stream. That's, I defaulted to have that always checked, but I can uncheck it. I'm going to check it for now to show you how that works, and then click Assign. So I'm going to now log out of my teacher account, and I'm going to switch to a few different student views to show you what that looks like. So logging out here, and you can get your students to the student accounts a couple of ways. You can just tell them to go to ReadWorks and click Student Login, or you can just direct them to the link, which is readworks.org/student, and there's your student login. So if your students are logging in with a roster class, then you'll have distributed your class code to them. This is my class code. They enter that, and their name will be on the list that you entered as you created the class. So all they have to do is select their name from the list, type their password, continue, and there they are at their class. Or sorry, at their workspace. So here they have the assignments that you have given to them. I'm going to log out. I'm going to do the same thing, assuming that I actually am using my Google Classroom. So for that, I'll say log in with Google. I have my Google account. So this is my Thing1 account. I will enter my class code. So this is the unique class code that was generated by ReadWorks that you distributed to your Google Sign-In students. They enter that, click continue, and then they're brought to that class space, to their classes. So they can join more than one class using their Google Sign-In. They click on the class, and I didn't assign this class any assignments, but they'll be brought to that sort of same view there. Finally, to get to that same point, if I'm a Google Classroom user, and I'm a Google Classroom user as a student, I go to my Google Classroom, and I sign into my account. So right now I'm just logging into Google Classroom. I'm not in the ReadWorks system at all. I see in my Google Classroom that I'm in Miss Laird's 5th grade class, so I can go through to that. And I see that I have an assignment waiting for me in my Google Classroom stream. My assignment is on ReadWorks. So I click that, and I click through the sign in here. I'm just confirming my Google account. and I'm brought directly into that assignment. So you notice that student just logged in straight from their Google account. All they needed was their Google credentials and a normal Google login process. They didn't do any login process with ReadWorks. It just brought them straight here. So I'm actually going to log back into my roster class because they had more supports for the student. So this just depends on how you created the assignment. So once a student's in an assignment, they can see all of the supports that you assigned to them. So they can read the article. This student, I assigned audio, so they can listen to the audio using the player right here. They can see their vocabulary support, so they can see their words, definitions. This has a Spanish cognate, so it's there, examples of the word. I assign them a question set, so they can answer questions right here. And they can type in their written answers here. I'm going to click next. So I also assigned vocabulary questions, so they can go ahead and answer these too if they'd like. The meaning of the word expedition, there you go. And they can go through and answer as many of those as they'd like. I assigned the ebook, so they can also read the ebook, read or listen to, whatever they'd like. And then when they're all finished with everything, they can click submit. I'm not going to click it yet because I want to show you also those student supports that I mentioned. So students are able to make some decisions about how they'd like their own workspace to look. If they want the text to be bigger, they can make that text bigger. If they want paragraph numbers, they can click here and have paragraph numbers. The guided reading strip, this allows students that may have a little more trouble focusing on what they're reading, track the text by line, and they can do what's called a split screen view. So they can read the article and answer the questions side by side. I'll go back to my comprehension questions. So now that I feel like I've done a good job, I can click submit. And all of that information will go back to the teacher. I can also look back at it once I've submitted it in my submitted assignments. And I can see right away how many multiple choice questions I got right or wrong. So you can see I need a little work on my multiple choice skills. And then the written response, the teacher hasn't graded it, so that's also noted there. So again, I just access that through my submitted assignments and see your results. It's also a place where students can go back and reread the text if they ever should want to. All right, so I'm now going to log out of, oops, I forgot one thing. Actually, can I do this here? Just logging into a different student account so I can show you highlighting and annotating. So when students are in their assignments, they can also highlight and annotate. They're in the article. All they do is select whatever they want to highlight with their mouse. Once they stop selecting it, this little bar will pop up with all of these colors. So again, they just selected it with their mouse and the little bar pops up with the colors. So they can choose their color. You may have a code for what those means. And then they can click this if they want to annotate this. Whether or not they click submit, actually right now, you'll be able to see that, but they can click submit. And again, as a teacher, you'll be able to track anything that they highlight or annotate in your results. All right, so that is the student section. And now I'm going to go back to the teacher accounts. and show you all of the results and progress that you'll be able to track. Okay, so I'm back in my teacher account, and I click on Assignments and Progress on the upper blue navigation bar. And here I can see my student results by assignment. So if I look on the right-hand side, I can see how many of my students submitted assignments. And then if I click through to class results, I can see this dashboard that gives me an overview of how my students have done on an assignment. So here I know that I can see my results by student up here, and I can see my results by question. So if I want to drill down into how a particular student did, I click that student's name, and I can see how they've done. I'm going to go back to, if I want to grade assignments, then I click that grade assignments button. Here, I'll do that again. That was a little fast. So assignments in progress, class results. So I can grade these. That's one way to get to grading. There's also a button at the top of each student that will allow you to do that. If you click grade these, it's bringing me straight to the written answers. So I have the question listed here, a suggested answer from ReadWorks listed below it, and then the responses of each of my students. So you can see what each student has written as you grade it. You can select correct, anything on the scale incorrect, and you can write a response to your student. You can go over all the questions that way if you'd like to. You can, I'm going to show you also how you can see their annotation. So I'm going to the class where the student did the annotation. So I click through that. I can see again the student's results for the article. I can see their highlights here. So I just clicked on the individual student and I could see that they highlighted it. If I want to reassign this, I can change the due date. Just authenticate with Google. This is my Google Classroom class. Everything's exactly the same except for that authentication piece with Google Classroom. And I can have my student redo the assignment. So this will give them that same assignment again, but blank, or revise the assignment where the student will receive this assignment with my comments and then be able to make changes. Oh, I don't know why that happened. That's okay. So then one more thing I want to draw your attention to is assignments in progress. And there's a tab here that says student progress. This is how you can track student progress over time. So along this next rail, you can see which products you can track by. So reading is an overview of everything they're doing in ReadWorks. You'll be able to track articles they've read, words they've read overall across whatever products they were using. And you can filter that by month or by all time. Comprehension questions will show you how many questions a student got wrong or right, how many were correct if they, of the graded ones, and then the percent correct. And then kind of same thing with the skill and strategy questions, vocab activity, paired text questions. So these are just broken out by product type. And then article a day, which is a little bit different. You can see the articles read, words read, and their book of knowledge entries. For all of these things, you can easily export them to CSV to put in your gradebook by clicking that export button, or you can easily print it with that print button, share it with a teacher at parent-teacher conferences, maybe share it with your principal. Also, If you want to see how an individual student's doing, you can click through to their name and see an overview of that individual student. If they're doing article a day, there's something called the Book of Knowledge, which you can peek into here. All right, and I missed one thing in the class admin that I'm going to go back to, and then I'm going to have some time for questions. So back in your class admin, I forgot to point out you have some class options. So go to your class admin, choose your class. You have some options here. You can do things like rename a class, lock password. So if your students are changing their passwords and you don't want them to, you can lock them there. You can also add a co-teacher. So if you work with a co-teacher, you can enter their email here and then add them as a co-teacher. They'll receive an email and can choose to then join your class. They'll be able to make changes to your class admin. They'll also be able to create and grade assignments. They won't be able to delete the class. They won't be able to add a co-teacher. One more option that you have is assignment settings. So some teachers would like their students to copy and paste from articles to cite evidence and things like that. And some teachers would like their students not to. Some teachers would like their students to do different things at different times. But you can allow and disallow that here, and that will be true for all of the articles you create till you change it. Similarly, if you have a student that you want to remove from the class, you just click on their name and remove the student. All right, so that's my very quick overview. I know it's a ton of information in a short amount of time, and there's a lot that I skipped. So I will try to answer as many of your questions as I can. All right, there is a replay of the webinar available. I think I let you know about that. So we will be sending around a recording of the webinar. Allison asked if there's a way to have article a day automatically assigned or to manually assign them each day. You assign them each week. So each of those article a day sets are enough articles for a week, but you do need to manually assign them all. You don't need to do it each week. You can do it ahead of time if you want, but you do have to assign them manually. Lori asked if ReadWorks works on tablets like Kindle Fire. Yep, it should work on any tablet. Let's see what other questions we have. Holly asked a good question that some of you might be interested. If students do not finish an assignment, will answers be saved for when they have an opportunity to go back and finish? Yep, answers are always saved. Please definitely feel free to keep typing questions if you have any. In the meantime, I'm also going to share the survey in the chat. So you should be able to see the survey show up in the chat now. I'd love if you filled it out. It really helps us get better at these sorts of webinars, which we want to keep doing. I see, okay, I have a good question from Christine. Can you print ebooks like we can print the article? Ebooks are not formatted for print. Those are really, as they say, they're ebooks. They are formatted to be projected. So yeah, those are ideally used on a device. You can print them, but it won't be like a perfect looking thing. Marie asks if you can return to an assignment if the due date has gone by. In your teacher account, you can extend the due date. So you can go into the assignment and change the due date straight from your teacher account, and then students will be able to redo it, but they can always access it. So they can always reread and check out the questions. Jacqueline asked if ReadWorks will be adding math word problems to the curriculum. We have no plans to do that at this time. We are focused on reading comprehension, which is definitely important for math, but we don't have any plans for that. Lori asked the advantage of using ReadWorks through Google Classroom as opposed to just using ReadWorks through the regular site. It's really just to keep all of your things in one place. There's not too much different about it, except for if you've already created classes in Google Classroom and your students are already going to Google Classroom to access their other assignments, they can now use Google Classroom to access their ReadWorks assignments as well. They don't need to log in. So it's really just a convenience for those teachers and students that are already really using Google Classroom regularly. Gail asked about the grades from ReadWorks automatically importing to Google Classroom. No, they don't at this time. So the grading all should happen in the ReadWorks system, but you will be able to see if students have completed an assignment or not. Jean asked if we plan to incorporate more visual reading, so tables, graphs, charts, along with the text. We actually do have plans. We definitely have plans to add more images as supports for many of our reading and vocabulary. We do want to add more of other kinds of visual aids as well. So I can't give you any specific numbers, but it's definitely in our roadmap to be adding more and more of those things. All right, so if there aren't any other questions, then I'm going to sign off, but feel free to continue to reach out to us. You can find us via our help desk or our social media channels. You can always ask us questions on Facebook and Twitter. We are there to answer those. And I hope you'll come back for another webinar. Great, thanks again.